Every year, dozens of international broadcasters descend on Davos at the World Economic Forum to report on it and assess its significance. We thought we'll ask CNN's Richard Quest what he thinks. I believe, Richard, it's year number 18. Why do you keep coming back?
18 or 19, I'm not quite sure which. Why I keep coming back? I ask myself the same question. Because you have the world's principal decision makers, not just in government, but CEOs, NGOs, whether it be Oxfam or anybody else, they're all here at the same time discussing the key issues, and you get an idea of what those issues are and where, and most importantly, where everybody stands on them. That's why you keep coming back.
And then, of course, you know, you use the word elitist. Some people use the word elitist. You don't like that word, do you?
No, I'm quite happy with elites. I mean, you know, I'm an elite, you're an elite. You know, we are part of the upper strata of our societies,
yep,
because either through income or job or profession and decision makers.
How do you assess the value of Davos?
Oh, you don't.
You let it happen?
You let it happen. I mean, I have always said, and I'm a critic of this place,
yeah,
I believe that the element of hot air is almost outrageous, and the number of limousines drafting around, wafting around, is offensive. But I do believe that if Davos hadn't been started 50 years ago by Klaus,
yeah,
you'd probably have to invent it today. The number of issues that are so great that there is real merit in decision makers and experts on these issues coming together. Now, do I think it's too big and there's too much? Absolutely. I think you could cut it back, you could slash it back. Do I think sometimes too many of the panels are too nebulous? You know, why does somebody who's a health expert need to go to a panel on XYZ, on something completely irrelevant?
And panels you have then, but then of course you also have these coffee shop conversations. I don't know what goes on there. You know, what's the value for me?
Do you mean now? Well, what I'm seeing, which is really interesting,
yeah,
I'm seeing in places like the Ukraine House, the Caspian Week, some of the banks are organising their own sessions. And you walk along in the morning along the promenade and you see 50 people sitting in a store window listening to a discussion on X. And this is outside of the forum, but these are very valuable discussions because this is targeted, it's interesting. So there's an entire different set, privately organised. I'm doing one tomorrow lunchtime on LGBT issues. So there's an entire different subset of talk, coffee shop chats. And then you have what I just call the Davos moments. Yeah. That moment when you have 5 minutes with somebody important or some decision maker. Nothing comes of it, no agreement, but you build a relationship.
And that's important because this is not a summit, a conference about declarations or signings, is
Correct.
And I suppose that's why the Davos moments that you speak about may be perhaps a valuable take-back, if you like?
Yes. The problem with the Davos moments is that they've become somewhat institutionalised.
Yeah.
So CEOs will tell you, particularly of the accountancy and the financial investments, they will tell you that they will see 30 or 40 clients or customers, people here, that would take them a year to see if they had to go and travel. So the right people are here to meet with each other. Now, I think there's a difference in delegates that are here. Far more joint venture capitalists, far more private equity, far more hedge funds, investors, tech. Tech is much bigger here than it ever used to be. And on the other side, you have the NGOs, you have the organisations of social responsibility, the social entrepreneurs and the like. And for some reason, these two seem to marry and match, and Davos works. I don't think you've got as many prominents of the big CEOs.
Now, when you look at a country like ours, South Africa, down there on the south of the African continent, through all of these issues that we are talking about, climate change, gender inequality, you still have a country like ours wanting to come here and say, guys, can you bring some money back home? They're luring investors. How successful do you think that mission is?
Oh, I think it's highly unsuccessful.
Why?
Because if you haven't got the policies that investors want, if you haven't got the environment that is conducive to the investment, if there are problems within the country, and this is not about South Africa, this is anywhere, investors aren't going to come. Merely dressing it up in a nice box with a big bow and saying, hey, we're from X, we're nice people, come and visit us, will not work. Will not work. You have to have the background, you have to have the depth, you have to have the markets, the liquidity, the opportunity, the entrepreneurialism, the protections, the rule of laws, all of that. All Davos will give you is a hello, nice to meet you. We've got this plan for X. Would you like to come and talk about it? And that's what it gives you.
Because it really is about distraction, and if you're not good enough to distract, you wouldn't capture, would you?
Correct. So whilst but don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, this is not South Africa specific, but there are the people from countries, maybe South Africa, whatever, the representatives and the delegates will find interesting things to come here and talk to other people about, whether it be health issues, whether it be infrastructure, whether it be power and supply and energy management. But if all you're coming for is to say, hey, we're here, come and invest in us, you better have more than that, or you're looking pretty naked in the snow, and that's cold.
Okay. I'm going to ask you very quickly. Yeah. Yesterday, Trump, Greta.
Yeah.
How did you digest that?
Oh, it was Trump did what he needed to do. He trumpeted the US economy and economic growth. He gave a little nod to the environment as he sees it, and he railed against socialism, apocalypse, and the doomsayers. He obviously didn't take on Greta. There is no merit or mileage in taking on a 17-year-old climate activist who's very popular in the world at the moment. Why would you?
Richard Quest, thanks very much indeed.
Thank you.